I am so delighted, honored, excited to be here with my dear friend, passionate colleague of restorative practices, and loving aunt of twin young boys, my dear friend Yasmeen Davis from Baltimore, Maryland. Woo, woo, shout out, Yasmeen.
Thank you, Dara. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. So we were talking the other day and just thinking about, we love to work in circle and we love to be of service. And how can we unite in order to do that, to be of service, to sit in circle and uplift humanity? And we do a lot of work together and apart around social justice, race and equity, right? Being trauma responsive and resilience, etc. So we're going to have a conversation today.
All right.
And let's see how this goes. Maybe we'll share with everybody. Maybe we'll just share with us. But we're going to be open. So Yasmeen, appreciate your courage and openness. Do you want to start us off with a virtues pick?
Yes. So I shook, and it's actually one of my faves, and it's detachment. So detachment is experiencing our feelings without allowing them to, Can we pause it? It froze. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry.
It froze.
It froze.
I guess detachment felt like it needed to be detached.
And now it went to devotion.
You get a choice then.
So.
Or you can go back to detachment. Well, are you attached to detachment?
I'm not. I have learned that I have to detach from detachment.
All right. So let's see if you're open to devotion and if you're devoted to devotion.
All right. So here we go. Devotion is commitment to something we care about deeply. It is a passionate focus on our life's purpose. It is wholehearted service to an endeavor that we love. Devotion to those we love is a promise kept in daily ways to care for one another always. Discernment is the first step in discovering what is worthy of our devotion. What is my yes? What calls to me so strongly that I cannot resist, knowing that it is truly mine to do? When we are devoted, we have all we have and all that we are. Devotion is our true wealth. Oh.
Would you like me to read the back?
Yes, because I think it might actually be my phone.
So that was read so beautifully. I will do my best to read in such the loving tone that you just did. So on the back it said, there's a quote from Rumi. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. The practice of devotion. I discern the purpose to which my life calls me. I work from the fullness of my heart. I do what I love and love what I do. I keep faith with my commitments every day. I say yes to my true calling. I am willing to give my all to what I care about. I am thankful for the gift of devotion. It makes me fully alive. So yes.
Powerful words.
Yeah, so how does devotion speak to you right now?
Yes, so, just kind of trying to figure out and be true to that voice and true to that purpose and make sure that everything is in alignment to that purpose. Has been a struggle. It's been a journey, but it's also one that is not just a one-time thing. It's kind of a continuous commitment, and it's kind of your ultimate act of self-care. If I am true to my purpose, then that means that my light can shine as bright as it can to support everyone else. And so that's something that I am learning and relearning and unlearning and learning again, and so it's been a journey.
Yeah, well, bless you for your openness sharing that, and I hear your dignity and your integrity, trusting who you are and honoring your path and your journey and your wisdom and discernment in sharing that, our purpose isn't just a one-time thing. It can be changing over time. And sometimes we're on purpose, and sometimes maybe we're not so on purpose. And when we can listen and do the self-care, as you so wisely shared, then the chances of us being on purpose are even greater.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I honor you for that wisdom and discernment. I'm so grateful that you breathe it in, right? I'm grateful that you detached from detachment and you were led to devotion, because before we jumped on and I pressed record, we were talking about purpose. Like, what is our purpose? What is your purpose at this time? And there's so many things that you can do, that you are capable of doing, that you have done. What right now are you being called to do? And so my question is, and it's actually one of your questions that you wanted to offer up, is why do virtues even matter at now during this time of the pandemic?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to devotion, right? If I am not clear in who I am and what my values are, right? That explicitness that virtues allow really helps me to define who I am in this current moment and what I need to grow and be my best self. And so it's something that is critical, but especially in a moment of such chaos, where chaos can just breed and breed, to be very purposeful and to step back and to clearly define who you are and what you need. It's a power that that is unlike any other.
Yeah. Well, I love your enthusiasm for the power of virtues. And I wonder what your secret powers, they're not secret, right?
Oh,
We actually all have the power of virtues within us. And Yasmeen, what are the virtues that you hold dear and the ones that are helping to anchor you during this unprecedented time?
yeah, I think first and foremost, when this started, I was, shaking the deck, and joyfulness, 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 right? It's not a one-time thing. It's something that it's embedded into you, right? So it's kind of, it carries you through these times, right? And being joyful and purposely joyful in the midst of chaos, in the midst of confusion, in the midst of sometimes a lack of connection and compassion, helps you to be that person that can shine your light during a time that's just uncharted, but also a time of great opportunity for connection and great opportunity for grace and peace.
Yeah, so I'm curious how purposeful joy, right? Joy is
Yeah.
different than happiness, right? Happiness comes and goes. So how do you purposefully choose joy? How do
Yeah.
you purposefully choose joy?
Purposefully to it's actually, sometimes I will get out in nature and just say thank you, right? Just thank you for this. This is something I don't, this isn't time that is owed to me. This is something that I was given. There's so many gifts that I've been given. There are so many people in my life that have been just extraordinary gifts, yourself included. But it's just that time of, this is not anything that I, got haphazardly. This is very intentional. And it's all about that intentional joy, right? So no matter what's going on, I have a stillness in me. And I can be surrounded by those things, right? That nature, hearing a child's laughter, that's something that really brings me back to joy, joyfulness. And, hear my nephews laugh and just kind of brings me right back there. And it gives you right back to that spirit of gratitude and stillness that is I'm clinging to right now in this time.
Totally. Beautiful. And so I really hear that you access and you choose to access joyfulness by honoring your spirit, a practice of gratitude, being out in nature, children's laughter. And I think that you have the blessing of having actual live children in your home. And for those of us who don't, there's some fun laughter videos and children laughing on YouTube. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what's the best advice that you have ever received, whether it's virtues related or not? Maybe the most helpful advice. How about that?
Most helpful advice that I have ever received was, I don't know, and it's okay to not know.
Mhm.
And I think that, especially working in punitive systems, working in bureaucratic systems, which all systems are, you kind of get the sense that you're not worth as much if you can't explicitly say you don't know. And I think that there's a power in saying, I don't know, right? Maybe I can find out. Maybe I can get you into contact with someone, but at this moment, I don't know. And not allowing that to be attached to, I'm not smart enough, or, I'm just not as prepared as I could be. It's okay to not know. And it's okay to fully be who you are, and fully experience the spectrum of your humanity in everything that you do. And so that means that you don't have to be perfect all the time, because you're not going to be. And no one wants you to be.
Absolutely. What a gift that you've just given to all of us, right? That humility, the gift in humility, not knowing, not having to know, and being vulnerable and honest and sharing that you don't know. I also heard your willingness to be helpful, to look for the answer. And if you find the solution, great. And if you don't, then that's okay too. And also your dignity and integrity, not attaching your value, your self-esteem, your worth to having all the answers. And, these systems of oppression. And, I say that with all humility as a white woman of privilege. And I don't mean monetarily, because, I'm an educator and a consultant, right? But we've had these conversations. When I taught my son to drive, I didn't have to have the conversation about how he can get pulled over and be safe. When I go shopping after the pandemic, and I imagine that's not always true for you when you go shopping. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
And actually, honestly, I have an aunt who has to wear the masks everywhere she goes, and she's taller, and the mask is black, and she's afraid of wearing her mask because she says that people are afraid of her. She's so sweet, but she, it doesn't matter, because that's not what people see. Those inherent biases, you cannot have joy and inherent biases exist in the same space.
Yeah.
Because there's no stillness in those biases. And yes, they're unconscious, but once you know about them, you're obligated to do something about it.
Obligated to do something about it. You, meaning me, and what I've learned from you and other dear friends and colleagues is it's not about asking the solution from people of African descent, people of color, Black people, whichever way that you define, one defines themselves, but it's really about us as white people looking for the answers, doing our own work, getting rid of our white fragility as best that we can, right? And leaning in and knowing that we're going to make mistakes and we're going to do harm, and to be able to call on humility and openness to say, I never meant to do harm, though impact and intention, I've also come to learn, are two different things, but asking what we can do to make things right and to make amends. So this living in virtues is really, really essential. Did you want to say more about that?
Well, no, I was just thinking that's the perfect allyship, right? It's not about what I need. That's guilt, right? I'm feeling bad and I need to fix this in some way, right? So a lot of people will say, well, racism is over because Obama was elected. Because I voted for Obama, I don't have to think about that, right? But if something is not made whole, it's going to show up in a multitude of different ways. And so not using guilt as an excuse for disconnection, right? I can be fully guilty about something, but also fully remorseful and fully willing to take that next step into allyship. So don't just sit on that guilt, because that does no one any good.
Absolutely, such wisdom. Dave and I did our virtues pick earlier, our virtues live, and we got reliability, and there was something that came up about guilt. And I'm reminded from Linda Kavlin Popoff, the co-founder of the Virtues Project, that guilt is a signal for change. So if we're feeling guilty, if our white privilege or our whiteness, and we're feeling guilty, well, don't just sit in the guilt. There are many things that we can do to take action to change. And it's a process, just like developing our virtues is a process. And I know when I have done things and I've made mistakes, many of them in my friendships and in my work, right? And when I can call in detachment, which doesn't mean not feeling or not caring, it's about using my thinking and feeling together so I can look at my own stuff and then have the courage and humility to go back, take personal responsibility, and ask how I can make things right to strengthen the relationship, that there's a gift in that. And it may take many, many times showing up and leaning in and still having people upset, not trust me, and being angry. And it may be about me and my behavior, and it may be also what I represent and who I represent.
There's such a trauma to racism that it might be your voice. It might be what you're wearing, and it has nothing to do with you, but may actually have to do with you, right? So there's just so much to it. And when you deal with compounded traumas, which racism causes, it's just in your DNA. How do you begin to unpack that without having this real emotional liberation that's needed? But also, sometimes I can't articulate what I need to make it right. I don't know what right looks like.
Yeah.
And so having that conversation of, I'm an ally in this. Whenever we figure out what right looks like or what a right relationship looks like in this situation, I'm your ally. I think that helps tremendously.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. And, we've been friends for many years. And, and I'm so grateful because I love you so much.
I love you, Sarah.
Something, this is new. This is coming up for me. And I don't know if we've ever talked about this. So as an ally and as an accomplice, because what I've come to understand is an ally can be, I got your back. Well, I'm here. I support the unpacking racism, inequality, etc. But an accomplice is somebody to really step in, not take over, right? But be on the front lines and have the arrow in my back, take a bullet, literally and figuratively, for others in this work.
Yes. Have you ever seen that? There's a picture of Bree Newsom taking down a Confederate flag, and on the bottom of that is a few white folks that are kind of barricading. That is what I mean by allyship, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna have you here by yourself. We're in this together. And yes, this is your history. This is what's going on, but it also impacts every single person. It's not just on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask a question. Do you see a difference between allyship and being an accomplice?
I don't. I see them as the same thing. An ally that is not willing to step in the front line is complicit and is not an ally.
Okay. All right. So that's helpful. And I think what makes it not, as this is not already complex enough, is helping all of us get on the same page, understanding the language, because language has power. Right?
Yeah. And language has been used to exclude or invite. And so how we say it kind of shapes our world.
Absolutely. And it's also personal. Teachable moment for me is I have a friend that when I say white privilege, because that's what I've learned to say, is or come to understand about my unearned right as a white person, right? It's very triggering for her. And she gets really angry. And I was like, okay. And then I have other friends, so I have to understand it's about relationship, being in relationship with people, right? And what they personally need. And then the same friend, when I say things like, soul sister and sister, it makes her really angry because it feels like I am appropriating language. Yet, period, hard return, I have many of my friends who also call me Mama Dara or Sister Dara. And I have these loving relationships. And so, it's my responsibility to know what people in my circle and outside of my circle need. And it's going to be different. It's going to be different.
Yeah. And giving people space and grace to acknowledge that I might not know what I need.
Yeah.
I might be dealing with so much stuff that I can't name it, which I love. Going back to the virtues, it gives you a name. This is what I'm feeling because this is the virtue that this is calling up. And so just kind of using that language when we're talking about these traumatic events that we need healing around.
Absolutely. And so here's the question. As a recovering codependent, right? Grew up in an alcoholic family, married an alcoholic. He passed away homeless from the disease, or he passed away without a home. Not going to label him, right? And he passed away from alcoholism. I have learned to be the ultimate caretaker, to jump in and to rescue. And I felt growing up that I was responsible for everyone, and that if there was hurt, it was my responsibility to fix it, etc., etc. And unlearning this, thank goodness for 30 years in Al-Anon, this also gets brought into the conversations around race and bias and what is my responsibility, and when am I being a devoted friend and caring, and when do I need just to call in self-discipline and shut my mouth, probably right now, and give space.
Yeah, I too have that. I'm a recovering 4. I'm in that permissive box when we're talking about the social discipline window, and I continuously see how I don't know if I am nurturing because that is who I am, or if that is something that was kind of that put upon me, right? And so I can't tell the difference. Is that who I am, or have conditions made me be that way? Is that something I want to be? And how do you undo that, right? And so, falling into that stereotype of being the strong Black woman that has to take care of everybody and, doesn't have her own pain and hurt and, that kind of that mammy stereotype, and kind of really seeing how much that has just caused so much hurt and anger and anxiety and frustration, because it's like, well, you can't control everything, but you're called to be everything. And then you lose a bit of your humanity in that. So what is that power detachment that says that this is a boundary that I am not willing to cross?
Yeah.
Because that's a radical act of self-care. Just like loving yourself fully as a Black woman, where everyone is telling you that you are not worthy of love, is a radical act of self-care.
Amen. Absolutely. And so I hear your strength and your self-compassion, right? So this beautiful strength and your dignity and your gentleness. And I can only imagine the work that takes on a regular basis, given the information that's coming in from so many other people, the lies, Yasmeen, the lies, right?
Yeah.
And so with that, given all that you've just shared, what's a virtue that you would like to strengthen or even strengthen your understanding about in order to live a more fulfilling life?
Yeah, I think it's service with detachment. I think that is kind of where it is. It's I want to be of service. I am happiest when I am of service, whatever that looks like. It brings me joy. But is that a service because I'm using it as an avoidance tactic for some shame I don't want to unpack? Is that I'm so fully into this mammy role that I feel like I have to nurture all the time? What is that service? Because if it's service where it's just I'm the only one that's needed, then is that really service? Is that something that can be replicated and something that honors everybody that's in the space? And so that's something that I have been kind of working through a lot and being very intentional about. I'm happy to show you, and then I want you to do it, right? So I'm happy to be of service, whatever you need, but using some detachment and acknowledging that too.
Yeah. Oh, awesome discernment, my friend. And I'm going to do a me too with you
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there. I remember early on or middle on of my virtues journey, I've been doing the Virtues Project for like 15 years. And I had that same question. It's like, oh no, service feels so good. Like it brings me the greatest joy. Like service and generosity are my two favorite things to do. Is it okay? Is it self-serving? Like, does service have to be painful in order to be true service? And when is service too much? And you're on your own path, and I trust that you're going to figure it out. And there's a caller. No, just kidding. I'm going to let it go. And so for me, call from College Park. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to answer it, but hopefully they'll be okay that I hung up on them. Teachable moment that makes sure that the phone is off. Anyways, this is real time, my friend.
That's right. That's what happens.
Yeah, and I don't feel guilty about it. I'm not apologizing.
Right.
All right, back to service.
We are giving you a final courtesy call.
They're giving us a final courtesy call. Okay, well, if you're being courteous, then hang up. Okay, anyways, maybe we can cut that out.
Well, that's how you can tell it's real. That's all.
Yeah, that's true. We're keeping this real. All right, so I now know for me, when I'm over serving and it's not necessarily coming from a healthy place, for me, I start to get resentful. And it starts to come out sideways. And so for me, it's about balancing service and generosity with justice and discernment. You know,
I love that. Yeah.
And it goes back to the Rumi quote, you know, there are 100 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. What am I really devoted to? What is my life's purpose, or what is my purpose at this time? And what is my yes to do? Just because I or we can do it doesn't necessarily mean it's ours to do.
Yeah, it's and just thinking about how intentional God is. And if we were to be like God, then we also have to be intentional, right? So, and that's something where I feel like I have been taught over and retaught, right? I'm so stubborn, right? It's that you don't control everything. You don't know every outcome, right? And letting go of that and letting go of some of that anxiety that comes with not having to be in control, and recognizing where that's coming from a place of trauma, and of a place where if I don't know where everything is, everything could fall apart. You know, just kind of that right to that negative place, that depleting place that negative energy gives has been kind of my life's journey, and really digging into mindfulness. You can't control what's going to happen. You have no control over what has happened, but in this present moment, what's going on, and going right to a virtues, right?
Yeah.
This is what I'm missing, or this is what I'm needing. And here are the words to frame it so that I'm really clear and intentional about what that means in me.
So I really see your devotion to yourself, this self-discovery, and your devotion to God, right? And you know, working in partnership, and just to be mindful of the language, the stubbornness. Okay, remember that there's a virtue what's the virtue of stubbornness?
Oh, wait, hold on.
There could be many of them.
Yeah. I don't,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I know. I'm like, well, let me go back to my cards.
You keep at it. You don't give up. You've just been holding on or whatever.
Maybe determination.
Yeah, absolutely determination. So would you be willing to do a little exercise with me right now?
Absolutely.
Very good. So I want you to say 3 times, I'm so stubborn, and really mean it, and notice where you feel that in your body. And I'll say it with you. Ready?
Okay, wait, hold on, okay.
You start when you're ready, and I'll follow along.
Okay. I'm so stubborn.
I'm so stubborn. 3 times.
I'm so stubborn. I'm
I'm
so
so
stubborn.
stubborn. Where'd you feel it?
In my neck.
In your neck. Yeah, it feels
Uh-huh.
good, don't it? Not so much. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I'd like to invite you to say, I'm so determined. And when you're ready, I'll follow you. We'll say it 3 times and notice where you feel it.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm so
So
determined.
determined.
I'm
I'm
so
so
determined.
determined.
I'm
I'm
so
so
determined.
determined. Where do you feel it, Yasmeen?
In my stomach.
Feel it in your stomach?
Mm-hmm.
In your heart?
Yeah. Well, they're kind of close. They're in the general area.
You would
Like
drop
kind of like right, like that core. Yeah.
the core of who you
Like
are.
sternum
Right?
area. Yeah.
Did it feel better, worse, or same?
Lighter. Felt lighter. The
Yeah,
words felt lighter.
yeah, absolutely. So,
Stubborn felt heavy. Yeah.
yeah, awesome discernment. I appreciate your openness doing this on the spot.
Oh,
I mean, the
absolutely.
words have power and the virtues are incredibly healing. And so when we can reframe and rename, especially for ourselves, I think that's what is most healing. Other people can say whatever they want about us, and then we can learn to put on that shield of detachment because oftentimes it reflects more about them
Mm-hmm.
than about us.
A lot of projections happening.
A lot, especially now. Did you want to say more?
No, it's just something that, on the journey, especially if you're just trying to discover, especially I'm thinking about students, right? There's a hyper self-awareness, hyper self-conscious. And so when there is a negative word, it kind of brings up those shields of shame and kind of, well, I'm going to make you feel as bad as I feel. But if there is an understanding, which is there's so much grace involved with that too, grace with yourself, grace with someone else,
Yeah.
to be able to say, this is not a part of my journey, this is a part of their journey, and let's keep moving. There's power in that. So if we're able to teach students that, and the best way to teach it is by doing it yourself, we're going
Absolutely.
to be a much better people.
Yeah, again, something that detachment, or in social emotional learning language, first we have to be self-aware in order for us to be able to self-manage
Yeah.
and then to be
That's it.
connected socially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And really define what a healthy relationship looks like.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, second to last question. Your
Okay.
patience and perseverance being with me. What small act of kindness were you once shown that you will never forget?
Okay, so when I was in 7th grade, I was about 12. I think I was 12, right? And it was a very hot day. And I was in a school where there was no air conditioning, nothing like that. And I was just sweating, just, ugh, right? And I'm always very sensitive to heat. So I'm just sweaty. I am nauseous. I am about to faint. And I remember just sitting on the desk. My mother worked about an hour and a half away from school. No public, so we had to be on public transportation. So it would take
Mm.
2 train rides and a bus to get there, right? And she was a part of the desegregation program. So it was a school that was a mostly white school, and they were busing in students from a poor neighborhood. So that was me. I was there for a while, and I'm sitting there and I'm just sweating and I'm just like dying, right? I just feel like, I can't believe this is going on. So I put my head down and I feel this light breeze, right? And it was one of the other students who just has one of the biggest hearts that I've ever seen, fanning me with a
Oh,
little fan, because he's like, are you okay? Are you going to be okay till your mom gets here? And he's just kind of fanning me and talking to me, and it's all going to be okay. Don't worry about it. And I thought that was just such a tremendous act of kindness. And I still think about that sometimes, just that full-hearted care.
yeah. Beautiful. Well, I hear and I see your gratitude. And I think the teachable moment for all of us, especially right now, is kindness doesn't have to be huge. Service doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a sacrifice. When we can notice the common humanity in all of us, and we can do the golden rule, put into action, then that can be one of the greatest gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, this is an invitation, I think, for all of us right now is, what are those acts of kindness that we can offer either from our shelter in places or out on the street, even if it's wearing our masks right now, so that other people feel safe and don't feel threatened or whatever. But, you know, there's this always an opportunity for just a small act that ripples and pays it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. So you get the last words. But wait, I get to say thank you so much for your openness, sharing your generosity of spirit and generosity of time. Just sharing your joyfulness, your grace, your beauty. Just so humbled. All right? It's all you.
Sarah, I can't end it with that. That's amazing. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I think that if we just sit back and really honor the space that we're entering and all that came with that, that we're going to be a much better, fully evolved, healthier, relationship-centered, service-centered people. And I look forward to that because I think that humanity can get there. But I do think that there's a lot of hurt that we need to heal.
Okay, love you. Beautiful. Over and out. Take her words of wisdom, everybody, not just in your mind, but in your heart. What are you devoted to?